It's not about things. It's not about the pursuit of material possessions. It's really about the pursuit of how can we be the most that we were created to be and to leave a legacy behind us. And how can we push ourselves into becoming this version of ourselves that we really had no idea. And that is what I believe, that women can do so much more than what they think they can. And so I would just encourage your audience to believe in themselves. Just know that they are capable of so much more. They do have to take some risks and try some things and fail and learn, but not to give up, and to just know that the world needs them. The world needs women who want to leave a positive impact and who want to solve problems and to want to create positivity and joy out there. They can do anything they want to do, but they do have to work hard and kind of have a plan to roll that out.
Rhea Lana, welcome to the Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast. We're so excited you're joining us today.
Thank you, Laura and Vicki. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Great. Well, we're going to start off with a big question, and that is, if I were to hand you a magic wand today, what would you do with it?
It's such a great question. You know, I am a woman and I've had this entrepreneurial journey, and I would love to see more women feel confident in their story, whatever it is, whether it's in entrepreneurship or maybe it's in a corporate world, whatever that is. I would love for them to feel more confident and then to be able just to achieve their dreams, because I think it would make the world a better place.
I'm definitely giving you that magic wand right now. I would love to see that too. Riolana, you have walked that talk. You are that woman that you just spoke of. Tell us where it all began. It, why is what you do important to you?
Well, I think it was very accidental, and it's why I'm so passionate about it. And I've just seen it help my family and change other families. But I grew up in the military, and my dad was an Army officer. I moved all around the country and the world, and we had no business. You know, my family wasn't into business. My mom was a teacher. And so I very much stumbled into realizing that I loved business. And so that's one thing. I have a degree, but not business at all. You know, it's a degree that it's not very useful. I do think it helped me, expand my brain and all those things. But I started my story began as a stay-at-home mom. My husband was in his engineering career, and I had these three small children. And he made a decision, or we did as a family, for him to go into nonprofit work. And so that affected our salary quite a bit. We went from this very great corporate, all the benefits, and we were still, a one income family, but still went from that to kind of a startup nonprofit work. And so I found myself trying to figure out how to make one paycheck make it to the next paycheck. And because my degree was not something like a teacher or a nurse, it wasn't easy just to really just go out and find a job, to be honest. And so I really was having to be resourceful. And so I was doing everything from teaching tennis lessons to then starting to have these children's consignment sales. That's what I do, is we host these children's consignment events. And I had a little event in my living room. And back then, this was in the 90s, and there really wasn't great secondhand shopping experiences at the time. And there weren't even computers, which is hard to believe, but there weren't computers at the time either. And so we had this little event in our living room, and I invited my friends, and we bought and sold each other's things. And I always wanted it to be very high quality, where every item could be guaranteed. And then my husband actually wrote a program that we joked that we probably had the only barcoded garage sale in the world in the early 1990s. But that's been our niche, really, is that I just have always loved moms and families because I was that mom. And so that's really how the journey really got started.
That's incredible. And now you're a franchise owner. You franchise out the idea, you train women or help them understand how to run successful businesses. Mm-hmm. That's quite a journey. I mean, what is it even like to take your beautiful idea and see it franchised out? Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit about that journey.
Well, it's wonderful, but it also keeps you very humble because it always feels like every day there's something new to solve and your brain is stretched. But it's been a very, gratifying journey, honestly. I'm thankful because I think it started with our events, and I got to watch those grow. And I think what I love the most is seeing the happy faces of families who could come into our events and afford things for their family that they couldn't normally afford, just like it did for my family. So that's really where it got started. And then I watched our events grow from my living room to filling up a huge, like a Walmart, like these huge events. And, with, thousands of people participating. And so we watched that, and then we began to realize, well, we could franchise. And I will say my husband decided to stay in nonprofit work. I thought he might go back into the corporate world, but when he wanted to stay in nonprofit work, I knew I needed to be thinking long term for our family. And that's kind of what pushed me into thinking about franchising. We still didn't have a lot of money, and so I still just bootstrapped it. And I read the book Franchising for Dummies while my kids were swimming at the neighborhood pool. And I just kind of highlighted the things, and we didn't risk a lot of money. We really couldn't. I didn't know if anybody would buy a franchise, to be honest. And so we just kind of started very slowly. And it was really fun, though, to watch women begin to buy our franchises. And I really have always loved mentoring women. And so it was fun to mentor those women in business and then begin to see them be successful. So it's been a wonderful journey. Challenging, but then, challenging is what makes us grow, right? As people, we get stronger and smarter, our capacity increases, and then we have the opportunity to increase our influence, which is really a blessing, and hopefully make the world a better place for the generations coming behind us. That's what really motivates me.
Ah, love that. That is so motivating when you can help the next. And I'm curious, how many different franchises do you have, and how many women are out there running these franchises now?
Well, Laura, we have about 120 franchises, and so we're in about 27 states in the U.S. And so we love it. It's a wonderful. Sometimes they're partnerships. Sometimes it's a mother and daughter who will buy a franchise, or sisters, and it is a side business. It's not full time. It's not like buying a McDonald's. It's a side business, and so we just do pop up events, and we do them once in the spring, once in the fall, and so it's a wonderful thing. Some women are maybe trying to get out of the corporate world, and they want an entrepreneurial journey, but they don't want to do it by themselves. That's one of the great things about franchising is you get to do business in community, and we love that.
It's really fascinating. So, Rhea Lana, if I had this fabulous idea, anything, because I'm thinking about our audience and they're all successful or very innovative entrepreneurs with big ideas, lots of them. What's the bridge from having this amazing idea and maybe testing it yourself in the market and seeing that it's popular as yours was to doing what you're doing now? Like, what was it that tipped you off to say, let's do this franchise?
Well, that's a great question. I remember I had a friend who was my attorney at the time, and he kind of asked me the same question. Riwana, what makes this so unique? What is it that can make this franchisable? And I think you do need to think through. First of all, is it duplicatable? Is it something that you can get out of your head and get it on paper? And for me, that was the first challenge because I've been doing these things, and I had actually started in my town, and I had expanded to another town about 45 minutes away. So I knew that I could do it again, and I knew it would work in another town, but I didn't know if I could teach someone else how to do it. And so one of the biggest challenges was beginning to write an operations manual, and you have to write all the processes down. And I remember kind of working really hard to get all the processes recorded. And then one of my friends who actually helped me at the events, we were stay-at-home moms together. We'd drop the kids off at school and go for a walk at the park. And so one day I was telling my friend, I'm so proud of myself. I got the operations written and I'm ready. And she said, Rialana, but what about the why behind these processes? And what about how you treat people? And because that is what's making this excellent. And I remember being kind of mad at her, because I thought I wanted to be done with that process, but I had to go back and think through, that's true, because our events are very much, there's lots of people involved, lots of teams. You're coordinating mostly, men to a lot of women. And it is a lot of fairness. You have to do things fair, and that's how you communicate, how you handle customer service. And so it did make me go through and think through, what are my values, and what is my purpose for this, and how can I communicate those things to other people that are helping at our events. And then if we were going to franchise, I have to be able to articulate those things and teach those things to a new franchise owner so that they reflect our company with the same voice and the same attitude that we do. So that was one of the very first things it was pretty challenging to actually then get it out of my head and out of my heart and get it onto paper.
Yeah, because that's like building a culture within an organization that's so, all over the place. Like you said, 27 different states, right? How do you do that? I bet that's a really hard thing for most people to try to figure out. And you're right. You think about the operations, you do first, you do this, then you do that. You can write those lists for days. But how do you get everyone around the same culture and exactly, because it's all reflecting your brand at the end of the day? It's not an easy process. Tell us about some of the challenges of that you faced.
Well, I love what you said of different cultures, because back in the early days, when starting one business was having these events. Well, then when you franchise, it's like starting a whole nother business, and so I couldn't really afford to pay too many people to go do things. And so not only was I running my events, but then when I would launch a new franchise, I would go and host that new franchise and get them off the ground. And I remember one day in the early years, I went into Dallas, Texas to launch a franchise. And this was, in the 90s. So it's, it was several years ago. But in that area, women had, big hair, lots of jewelry, no personal space, lots of hugging, and, say y'all. And, it's just the Southern US culture, And so then I launched that franchise. I got on the plane and I flew to Chicago. And I launched that franchise, and it was a very different culture. Like, not a lot of makeup, not a lot of jewelry. That we have everybody wants personal space. There's not much hugging, But here's what I realized is that moms and women are the same. Like, they work hard, love their families. The events were the same, but just culturally it looked a little bit different. And so it was a good challenge for me to, how can we use the same Rhea Lana's voice and our culture in our company, but can it look different in different areas? And it absolutely can, as long as it's about the values of honesty and integrity and a positive attitude and treating people with respect and all the things that, and for us, we also, it's a biblical principle that's called the golden rule that talks about treating others the way you would want to be treated. And I think when you use that principle, no matter what, it creates this culture that looks the same no matter where you are, no matter where you are. And so I've used that a lot, where if you really sit in that other person's seat, like we have consigners. They're the ones who sell things at our events. If I'm a consigner, would I want to be treated? Or if I'm a shopper, how would I want to be treated? Or if I'm an employee at the event, how would I want to be treated? And so if you put yourself in their shoes, it just helps you make a better decision, a less selfish decision,
What I love, I love that you care so deeply about the experience of the business owner. And I'm curious, we're talking about moms. This is, like you said, it's a part-time opportunity. It's women who already have so much in their lives. Yet perhaps they're looking for a little something that's just for them. Is this about purpose? And who's your ideal target market or audience of a franchisor?
Hey there, sorry for the interruption, but if you're a woman entrepreneur ready to raise your profile, expand your reach, and start being seen as the expert you already are, we have a challenge for you. Vicky and I have created a free guide called the LinkedIn to Latte Method. Check it out in the link below. It's designed especially for women who are done playing small and are ready to attract opportunities, clients, and increase your visibility. No tech overwhelm, no awkward call DMs, just clear, authentic strategy that works. So download the free LinkedIn to Latte guide below, take the challenge, and start turning your brilliance into real opportunities. Now, back to the episode.
Well, I agree that women need a little piece that's just for themselves. Like I love when you said that, and my heart beats that. I think as women, we can tend to give our life away, and that's how we're wired. It's what we find joy in doing. But I am now 60. I've got kids and grandkids, and I'm at this stage of life where I can see some of my friends, if they haven't ever carved out a piece for themselves, you can kind of get lost. Whether you've given it, no matter what, maybe you've given it away to a corporate career or your family or whatever. And so I do love what you said, Vicki, and I think we love to connect with those women who are looking to find that piece. It can be a passion. Maybe they've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and build a business, but would love to do it in a framework of community where we are women doing it together. It feels safer. Business is risky. No matter what business you go into, there's still, I always say, I wish you could just hang a banner and people come. Like, I wish that's all there was to it, but it's not. It's lots of work, but it's wonderful. And you get to find yourself through the hard things and you get to develop yourself. And so, yes, I think sometimes it's someone looking for that passion. It could be someone who maybe they have been in the corporate world for a long time and they would love to work for themselves. It's a different feeling to wake up every morning and know, okay, everything I do today is going to build my business for myself. And that's a little bit different. It's a different feel. Or some women who just maybe they have been at home and haven't had an opportunity to work. It's a great way for them to land in something that's a proven concept. It's so fun because we are part-time. We have seen so many people find their way to us, from accountants to veterinarians to lawyers to teachers to everything across the gamut, and so it's really fun. And then we can just build. Most women who come to us do not have any business background. Like, maybe a few have owned other businesses, but most. And so it's a really safe way to step into business if they've never had any experience before.
Yeah, I like what you just said there, the safe way to step into business, because I think that's what holds back a lot of people from becoming an entrepreneur in the first place, is all the fear and the risk around. And I think especially for women, we take on a bulk of responsibility for our family. We have kids, maybe we have a mortgage, all these
Mhm.
responsibilities, especially later in life, that come along that make it a whole lot harder to just step away from a corporate job or, something that feels stable. I always say like feel stable because I don't believe any job is safe and stable, whether you're an entrepreneur or working for somebody else. But I do love that this is such a great stepping stone
Mhm.
for someone who wants to maybe test out what it is like to run their own thing, that maybe wants to stretch or maybe needs a side hustle for so many reasons. I mean, we know how bad the economy is, right? I
Right,
mean,
right.
this is the perfect time to grab a side hustle where you can. And this is a nice way, because to go into the franchise, they have, like you said, the operating procedures are ready for them. That's amazing. Like, most of us are out here in the wilderness trying to find our way with no map. you know, you
Yes.
hand people a map. That's amazing. What do you see in your future? Like, how do you see it expanding and growing from here?
Well, we would love to continue to grow. We don't, we love to grow, but we are growing organically. And so we want to make sure that we have a very strong corporate infrastructure to be able to give great support. That's one thing that's always been super important to me is we don't want our franchise owners out there floundering. And so we have a really robust training and support. We are women who love supporting women. Yes, we want to build this company, but even more than that, we want every franchise owner to feel seen and heard and supported. And so that's really been our focus. And it's been fun. We've now been franchising about 15 years. And so a lot of the women on our corporate team own successful franchises, but then they are able to work on the corporate team in a part-time way, but they're like worth full-time because they know the business, they care, they've been through that. And so we would definitely love to continue to offer our franchising opportunities to more women out there. We just are looking for just the right fit, but it works at pretty much anywhere from a small town in Arkansas to a big city, and it's just really about building community, and that's what our events are. It's really building community, and it's inviting families to come, and that's the magic of it. Honestly, is you're creating this service. I never really was a salesperson. I'm an introvert by heart, and I didn't want to sell anything. And so that's the neatest thing about, I think, our events is you're not selling something. You're just inviting families to this incredible marketplace for families. And I think especially with the economy and where things are, everybody wants to be smart with their money now. No matter where you are on the socioeconomic level, we all want to be smart, and children grow through things so quickly. So, children's clothes are never going out of business, because moms are always having babies. Kids always grow out of things so quickly. And that's really how the concept kind of got started as well. I've got all this stuff. What am I going to do with it besides have a garage sale? And I'd like to make good money for it. Or else you're a mom that, like, I know I have a daughter, and my daughter-in-law are both having new babies. And you realize it is very expensive to then try to buy, especially if you want the nice gear and if you want the nice brands. It's very expensive. And so it's wonderful to create this kind of secondhand experience that has really nice brands, but a fraction of the retail. And so,
Yeah, I love that. And, as a mom, I've got a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. So I've been there. I know, especially those stages where they grow out of things in no time, and you pull stuff out of the drawer and you go, they didn't even wear this, like we forgot it was in the drawer because and now they've grown out of it. What do you do with it? Absolutely. I've had that so many times, or you give it away or pass it down to somebody. And this sounds like such a simple, smart idea
well,
that is just brilliant. And this, I think, is a good lesson for entrepreneurs to realize, like, sometimes it is just the simplest of ideas that can grow to the biggest businesses, because you have a really big business, but it's still simple.
yeah.
And in concept, anyway, I'm sure it's not simple in the back end, but
No, well, and you're right. You're right. We
idea.
just met a need for families. It is very simple. It's just buying and selling, and and it is a pop-up event thing. And through the years, people would say, "Rhea Lana, when are you going to get serious and open a store?" I'd say, "Never, never." Like, that was never the goal. I never wanted to run a store, and I think that's one of the things that has been innovative a little bit is running these pop-up events. And for me, it just made smart. It helps families just be able to clean out twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring. It also helps with just the recycling and being smart, protecting the environment, and clean out, declutter twice a year. But it's meeting a need, and that's what I would say to the entrepreneurs out there and entrepreneur wannabes is just, where would you love to see your life improved? Because that's really what I did. And then stick with it, and then watch people's faces as they appreciate what you're offering, and always make it better. And I think that's kind of was sort of my challenge to myself through the years, is how can I keep making this better? Don't give up when it gets hard, because it definitely got hard. We're like, I can't do this anymore. But I think if we can just keep plugging along and keep improving, then someday you look back and you've got this product that people are grateful for.
They sound like some pretty sound business principles to work by, right? Don't give up. Look at how to make it better. Focus on the problem you're solving. I love that. And what beautiful principles. And you talked about values earlier. They're great values. And so, Rhea Lana, I'm looking forward to the day that I see an email pop into my inbox from you that says, we're in Australia.
We would love that. I want to come visit you in Australia.
The other thing that you mentioned, and I think it's worth highlighting, Rhea Lana, is what we've just spoken about is the model that you use for your business. And that's not to be overlooked, because as we look at getting into business, sometimes it's the model that's just the cleverest, simplest thing. We don't have to always do the traditional way of doing things. If we can be disruptors in an industry, if we can do something that's a little bit different, this is what makes us not only stand out, but it's like a fast track to success. And this leads me to think about thought leadership and how thought leaders do things differently. So, as a thought leader in your space, why is even getting on a podcast and sharing your message and just letting people know what you're doing, why is that important aside from the commercial aspect of it? Tell us what your views are on thought leadership.
Well, I think I have always, I probably wouldn't have called it thought leadership back 30 years ago, but I think I always was looking to be a disruptor a little bit. And how could, which means just making things better. And in our little world of children's consignment, it had been around actually for 30 years before me, but I wanted to bring it to sort of the Cadillac level. Like nobody had ever done it the way that we wanted to do it. And it wasn't about money. It was really just about if I wanted to shop, I wanted to a high quality experience. It was kind of selfish, honestly, is how it started. I was trying to serve myself. But then it turns out there were so many other women like me. And then I think when it came to franchising, one of the ways that we have been a disruptor. And for me, it really was just about generosity has been an important value of mine. And so in the franchise model, there's called royalties. And so the franchisees pay the franchisor, which is me, the royalties. That's kind of how it works. And then you use that money to build this business that then supports them. And so what we did when I began to franchise is I did inverted royalties, which means as a franchise would become more successful, they would give less back to the franchisor. And to be honest, I'd never read franchising books. I was very naive. To me, it just made sense that I still don't know another franchising company who does it this way, to be honest. And now that I'm sitting here 15 years in some ways I regret it because I'm trying to run on a very slim margin, but I really don't regret it because what it means is I wanted my franchise owners to keep more of their hard-earned money. Once they're successful and they learn the model and they are building a business, they need less support from me. And I wanted them to be able to keep more of their money because if I were in their shoes, that's what I would want to do. I wouldn't want to have to keep giving more and more back. And so I think that's another area where we have been disruptive. And I think it makes us then, attractive to people looking to want to buy a franchising company when people are comparing us in the market. And also we just have very little turnover because when our franchise owners become successful, well, some of them, they start thinking, well, I guess I could go back into real estate or I could go back into teaching. And they realize, oh my word, I'm making so much more money in this. Like, why would I ever want to go back to that? And so I think being a disruptor puts you in a position to add value to what you're doing. And so I think, so now back to podcast guesting, I think for me, I always am looking for a way just to, be frugal. We want to be smart and frugal. We just don't want to throw away a lot of marketing dollars out there because again, we do run a pretty lean model, but it makes us work hard. And so as I thought through this, I just wanted to be able to connect with more women out there who might be interested in our story. And they don't have to be interested in franchising. I just love helping women find their journey. And I've just learned the value of personal growth in whatever it is. I mentioned before, I'm building this corporate team, and these are amazing women. They don't own a franchise. They are young women who are trying to balance work and family, and they want to build a good corporate career. And how can I make that wonderful for them? Because we all know that that's a challenge. And so I think for me, I just am always looking for what is a way that I can get our word out to grow our company and get our message out that still makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because you mentioned the word balance, and it's such a challenging word for women in business because I think we seek it, we want it, we hope for it, but it's elusive.
It is elusive. You said it, Laura.
And I think I've come to the conclusion after many podcast episodes talking about that as a topic that balance is never equal. We don't ever equally have happy family, happy work, everything perfect harmony. That it's just a little tipping scale. It's sometimes one's up and sometimes one's down. And sometimes we got to put a little more effort and energy in here. Maybe our family needs us a little more because something's going on. Maybe work needs us a little more because there's something going on. And we've always kind of just got to do our best to just try to get it as right as possible. What's your thoughts on balance? And I think what it sounds like this model brings probably a lot more balance to women than the sort of traditional 9 to 5 sort of job.
I mean, it definitely does. And it changed my life for sure. I mean, I think that's why I've watched it change so many women's lives who were in the corporate life. And then if you can do this side gig, you can work very part-time and have this great corporate income, so it can be. But I also, back to your original thought, I think the seasons of a woman's life really affects balance, because I'm in this empty nesting stage and I don't have kids at home. And so my life looks very different than it did when I was raising three kids close together and when I had three teenagers. And so I think that's what I would love for women to keep in mind is, for one thing, think long term. And then sometimes we have aging parents, whatever we all go through all these seasons of life, and our capacity changes on those things. But if we can sort of keep the long game in mind and not just have our head down on what we've got here, but if we keep the long game in mind and create some space, as you were saying, Vicki, just kind of create some space for us to, because I just know that I'm in my stage of life, and I am so thankful that I have a career and a job. And sure, do I wish I could sit on the beach every day? Yeah, but I think I'd get bored after a while. And so I'm thankful that I have something to get up every day, and I'm challenged. I have to solve problems, and I get to mentor women. But I think if we don't work hard to carve that out in our younger years, then you get to this point and you go, whew, what am I going to do with myself? And I have some friends who are in that, which if you want to work at the local store for minimum wage, that's fine. But you really could probably do more if you set yourself up in a position to do that. But it is going to take some risk. You have to step out of your comfort zone and try some new things and learn some new things. So, but I think we all, we want it all, don't we, as women? We want to be able to experience joy in all the different facets if we can.
Yes, yes, yes. Rhea Lana, you mentor women. You must have these conversations with them every day. And it is about knowing that there's more, and not just in a sense of more stuff. If you've been a woman who has given away yourself for all of your life to your kids, to your family, to support, your husband, in so many ways, this is a beautiful purpose within itself. And then, as you said, you get to this season of it's just you. It's all like we do need to start looking inward and understanding what is important to me, and asking that question of ourselves can sometimes be a bit daunting, because it might be the first time a woman's ever asked herself that question.
Mm.
And this is such an important awareness. And I love that you bring this into the conversation. So you mentor women. I mean, let's just leave our audience on this beautiful high note of knowing that they have more within them, that they are, so powerful, that there is opportunity all around us. What would be your parting words on that front to inspire our audience in this sense?
Well, I like what you said. It's not about things. It's not about the pursuit of material possessions. It's really about the pursuit of how can we be the most that we were created to be and to leave a legacy behind us. And how can we push ourselves into becoming this version of ourselves that we really had no idea. And that is what I believe, that women can do so much more than what they think they can. And so I would just encourage your audience to believe in themselves. Just know that they are capable of so much more. They do have to take some risks and try some things and fail and learn, but not to give up, and to just know that the world needs them. The world needs women who want to leave a positive impact and who want to solve problems and to want to create positivity and joy out there. And so they can do anything they want to do, but they do have to work hard and kind of have a plan to roll that out.
I love that. And, as women, we're naturally nurturing. I think that's just a big part of our species, just how we are, is generally nurturing. And nurturing a business is also possible. And I think when you can nurture your business and the people within it, you can build such a big, beautiful business that has a type of impact that can be fueled by values and purpose. And yeah, and the risk doesn't feel as scary when you're that level focused on the outcome, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to build, the world you want to create and disrupt. Like, let's think about disrupting more things. Just because it's always been done a certain way doesn't mean that it always should be. And as women, we think differently, but we run a lot less of the business in the world. So let's flip that. I really want passionately more women to step into these roles as business owners and CEOs and entrepreneurs, because I think we'll build a slightly different world that it can be more inclusive for many and for more. And I love conversations like this because it just fires me up and gets me more excited to bring more of that into the world and to help more women, just give them that leg up, give them that hand, mentor them along the way. That's why we started this podcast. It's our gift, our bit of coaching, our bit of getting great information from incredible people like you, from the mentors themselves. So thank you so much for doing what you do, for building this beautiful business, for then expanding it out to help so many more and the impact. And I'm hoping to see you in Bermuda and Australia and the UK before you even know it. I can see this being a global business because I see there being a global need for exactly what you're doing. So listen up, peeps. We know we got fans all around the world. There's opportunities out there. And like Vicki said, we'll mention the show notes, how people can find you and learn more. But from us, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies.